It's Yamina. I hope everyone is doing well. In today's video, I wanted to do my own version of a roommate story time. And this is not a horror story. I love to watch YouTube stories that are about friendships or about roommates. But of course, those stories are usually horror stories, and mine is not. Just wasn't the best. So my backstory about this is that I only ever had one roommate that I wasn't related to once I moved away from my family and moved off my college campus and moved away from my grandparents. So growing up, after coming out of foster care, my roommates were my sisters, and my two brothers had their own room together. And we lived with our mom and our stepfather on occasion. And then when I was in college, I actually moved in my grandparents' apartment with my grandparents and my aunts, and I would stay with them during my breaks or during the summertime because my campus was 2,000 plus miles away from New York City, so I lived with them during break time and during summertime. And then, let's see, and when I was in college, thank goodness I didn't have a roommate. My room was super, super tiny, so I never had a roommate. It was a single person room with a twin bed. So I never had a roommate. I had the same room all 4 years of college. And I've been a guest at people's homes. I've had sleepovers with friends and various things. And for 18 months, my brother lived with me in my apartment. It was a tight fit because it was a one bedroom apartment. So it wasn't a fun experience, but that is not what this story is about. And siblings, we bother each other sometimes. But yeah, so this story is about the one time that I had a roommate. She only lasted for 12 days with me. The next bit of backstory is that this was my college friend. So in college, I had a very close group of friends, three of them. One of them I fell out with, just we drifted apart. She wasn't super nice. The second one moved back to Texas, and so I would see her whenever I would go visit her in Texas. And then the third one left the school after her second year, and I lost touch with her. So my close group of friends disappeared from campus, or I wasn't associating with the third one. I had another friend who wasn't part of that original group, and she and I were very infrequent with our communication with each other. Like, I had a lot of people I considered friends and a lot of people I considered acquaintances, but this one, I'm going to name her T. She was just somebody that I clicked with, but we didn't always talk, but we had very deep conversations and also very superficial conversations. She kind of kept things back from me, and I guess I kept things back from her sometimes. But yeah, she was one of my good friends in spite of that. And she was a person of color. Like, most of my very close friends were women of color. And so that's the other story. So yeah, I just had a lot of acquaintances. And to get into the story, another tiny bit of information. It turns out my friend T was mad at me at one point because she felt like I was neglecting our friendship, even though I used to put up flyers around campus saying that communication goes both ways, to like just to everybody in public, just to remind us, because being young in college, we're still figuring out friendships and how to, I guess, date people as well, and how to interact with people. And so I put up posters and flyers around campus just telling people phones are two-way streets. Use a phone, let people know you're thinking about them, all that stuff. So I was putting that up around campus just because I was feeling like my acquaintances and friends weren't reaching out as much as they could. So she didn't see that flyer, but she and I weren't communicating at a certain point, and it turns out, I was like, you can call me, I can call you, but it turns out she felt like I was neglecting her to hang out with another specific person. That specific person was one of my friends who was, I'm gonna just say this. I'm gonna give you a little bit of backstory, and then get into the story. So, as I said in the previous video, I dated women. Most of my friends, like most of my close friends, were not interested in women, and I've never had a crush on a friend minus one time that wasn't interested in women. So most of my friends were not interested. I wasn't interested in any of my friends. But this friend, she was a different person. I'll give her the nickname Kay. So Kay, I had a crush on her after knowing her for like 3 years. I had a crush on her. Don't know why. She was like the most horrible friend I ever had in my life. Like very horrible friend, just very inconsiderate. And T was confused about why I was spending so much time with her instead of hanging out with her. And when I told her that I had a crush on Kay, she seemed to understand a little bit better, but she was still just kind of annoyed with me that I hadn't been reaching out to her. And I was like, yeah, we should both be reaching out to each other. So that's all of the backstories. So I did 4 years of college. I didn't graduate, and T ended up leaving campus for like a part of the year. I didn't even notice, like she didn't tell me. And then she was coming back and I was moving off campus. I did my final year of college during the summertime. I ended up working on campus. I actually worked on campus afterwards too for a few years, but I ended up working on campus. And then I moved off campus into my first apartment by myself. And I got a 2-bedroom apartment because I thought my mom was going to visit me a lot and all that stuff. So T found out that I was going to be living off campus and she was coming back to school and she wanted to live with me. We were going to be roommates. So we decided that would be a great idea because we were good friends. Not super, super close, but fairly close, and prefer to be around other people of color as well. And so we made some ground rules that we both agreed on before she came, because at the time that she was going to be my roommate, I was studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses again, and I just wanted to be comfortable in my own space, and also for her to feel comfortable, but also for us to agree on what was going to keep us comfortable. So we agreed that we weren't going to have any sleepovers with anyone of the opposite gender, so that I wouldn't feel uncomfortable, because I knew I wasn't going to be bringing anyone over, but I knew she had a boyfriend and I didn't want a stranger coming into my space. So I was like, let's not have any sleepovers. Let's make sure that if we are going to bring someone over to the house just to hang out for the hours that we're awake, that we let each other know that someone's coming over. And I can't remember the third ground rule that we had, but basically communicate if we need stuff to be taken care of. And we were gonna figure out the rent part stuff later on. So we agreed on that. And I found out in the process of us talking that she was like mad at me about something that she never fully explained. And I thought it was super, super weird. Like, I know for a fact, like, she didn't have a crush on me. Like, that wasn't a factor in this situation. She just had some kind of anger towards me that she never explained. I felt like just weird about it, because I was like, why would you be angry at me and not even tell me and make it a big deal? So because she was angry at me and she still wanted to be roommates with me, she decided that she wanted us to get a mediation meeting at our campus with it turns out it was with one of the professionals on campus that she and I were both really, really cool with. She wanted us to do a mediation with him. I never felt like I got anything out of the mediation. Like, most of the time, if I have to do a mediation with someone, I understand why I'm there. And I understand that it's important to sometimes do a mediation with someone. But because of how this mediation turned out, I was super confused. I did not understand why she was annoyed. I didn't get anything out of the mediation. I also thought it was kind of dumb that not getting anything out of the mediation on top of her not just coming and speaking to me was just weird. Like, yes, you can talk about you're annoyed with me and we can get a mediation, but you can't even tell me why you're angry at me. So she never told me why she was angry at me or annoyed with me. We all hugged after the mediation, but I got nothing out of it. I was still confused. So she ended up moving in. Her relatives, her mom, dad, and her 2 siblings, I think, came with her from out of state to bring her into state, and they were at my apartment. And so she got settled in, and we hung out a little bit, and we were kind of getting reacquainted with each other. And I know for sure we went shopping one time together at the grocery store. We walked to the grocery store, walked back home from the grocery store, put our food away, and I thought everything was going well, but we only lasted for 12 days as roommates. She never paid me any rent. That's not really important because it was fine, because we never established anything. She never went on a lease because I didn't even know about putting extra people on a lease at that point anyway. So she never went on the lease. We didn't even think about talking to management. That was kind of funny now that I think about it. But yeah, she lasted for 12 days, and it was just like she was giving me attitude whenever I would see her. I didn't see her too often. She was talking on the phone with her boyfriend at night, and it made it sound like she was going to try to bring him over there. And I was like, well, I know I don't have to tell her about not sleeping over because we already talked about that. So attitude was coming, and she wants, like, I was having my Bible study one time, and she walks into the apartment with somebody that I really didn't like from my college. Like, I didn't have a dislike for too many people at my college. I think I only disliked 2 people at my college. The rest of them I either was acquaintances, friends, or I didn't know them. But there was 2 people that I really did not like at my college, and maybe three, maybe 4, but 2 people for sure. And my friend T knew about that person, and she walked into the apartment without telling me that she was coming in, because she knew I had a Bible study at that particular time. I didn't know she was going to be coming in with that person that I didn't like to do something. Like, they did something 5 minutes long, whatever, and then they left, and like she barely acknowledged me. The person that came in did acknowledge me, but I was just like, this is kind of rude because, like, you didn't let me know that you were coming by. So just simple rules, to follow them is better than not to follow the simple rules. We only had 3 ground rules at that point, and she like broke one, and it was within the 12 days. So I was annoyed about that. And this, like I said, this is not a horror story. It's just that our roommate status lasted only 12 days. So that happened between the 12 days. And the next thing I know, she was moving out. I think she must have moved out when I wasn't there, because when I came home, I looked in the fridge and I saw a carton full of eggs, and I was like, oh, I got eggs. And I didn't know that I was like addicted to eggs back then, but I know now I am. But I liked eggs back then, and so I was excited. But I opened the carton and I saw that all the shelves were empty inside the carton, and I was just like, was that a message? Like, why would someone do that? I was like, if the whole carton has no eggs in it, then you're supposed to throw it away. So I was confused. I thought that was extremely rude and kind of petty and unnecessary. So I was like, okay, we're not going to be friends. So I actually never spoke to her again. That was years ago. I was in my 20s at the time, and I haven't spoken to her since. I have no animosity towards T, but she had something that she was upset with about me, and I don't know what it was. I felt like it was something dealing with her personal issues that maybe she was projecting onto me, but I absolutely don't want to speculate more than that on here. But yeah, it was super weird. We only were roommates for 12 days. She didn't say goodbye to me, really. I never saw her family again, never spoke to them again, never spoke to her again. I don't even know if she graduated from the college. Actually, now that I think about it, I was still working on the campus by the time I moved off campus. I was working on the campus for about 4 or 5 more years, and she actually wasn't there. So I'm pretty sure that she must have went back to the state where she was from, because I never saw her again. She never contacted me. So that's the end of my story. It wasn't a horror story, but it was definitely weird, and just knowing about the different horror stories people had about with college roommates, or random people just having roommates that they like meet through ads and stuff. I just can't imagine like living with a complete stranger, because some people, like, I know myself, I'm kind of rigid and I like a clean space, but I also can be messy. So I fluctuate. But some people, like living with my brother, even like you have to have enough space so that their messes don't get into your space and you could be comfortable. And we didn't have enough space when my brother lived with me. So I don't know, like, I don't know how strangers work out. And I forgot to mention the place that I lived in. It did have oh, I did mention that. It did have 2 bedrooms. So there was plenty of space, bedroom, living room, dining room area, a small kitchen, and a bathroom. So it had like all the space, and it would have been perfect for 2 roommates who were like cool with each other, but I guess we weren't cool. And so that's how the roommate situation ended. And I'm not mad about it. It was just very, very strange. And I never had a roommate besides my brother since then. And I'm not mad about that either. So, yeah, that's my story. And let me know if you have any questions. And I'll talk to y'all later. Okay, bye.